So I heard you want to be a better producer. That's fine, because I can tell you 10 essential tips you want to know when starting producing. Follow me. What's up guys, my name's Akela and today I would like to present you 10 essential tips you want to know when you start producing. Let's get into it, shall we? Starting off with tip number 1, which is gear is not as important as you might think, because you can achieve good productions even with just a laptop and a good pair of headphones. Simply plug in the headphones into your laptop and you're good to go. I would recommend using an interface though, because it has a better sound quality and it can also use a microphone then. Just buy a little bit of software, like a synthesizer or maybe two, and then a good amount of sample packs, and you're ready to produce. People will tell you this is not true because you need to have a certain piece of hardware here and there which you can use during your production process, but actually to start with, it's not needed though. And it's not needed later on. I mean, you could use it if you have it, or if you're kind of an enthusiast. Then feel free to go with your hardware synthesizers, but it won't make a difference in the beginning when just starting out with a few soft synths. With that being said, let's move to tip number 2. Focus on your one and only DAW. Because once you get familiar with your DAW, it's going to be a lot easier for you to make productions, learn all the shortcuts and stuff. You need to be able to understand what your DAW does and how you can use it. I often meet people and they tell me, hey, I don't know, last week I tried Fruity Loops or FL Studio, and this day I tried Ableton, and which one is actually better? It doesn't matter. Pick the one you're the most comfortable with and you will be fine. Moving on to tip number 3, create a unique set or unique sound by using samples over and over again. Which basically means you don't need to create a new genre to be a producer, but you can use a set of samples which you use in every song. For example, Jonas Aiden does this a lot with his like mouth voice sound, and he uses that in one song and then in the next one and in the next one again. And it kind of makes people think of, oh, this could be a Jonas Aiden song actually. It's recognizable, and that's what's important. So if you have a sample which you like or which you want to use, and you want to use it in other songs as well, go for it. Create your own style with it and your own sound which makes you stand out. It does not need to be a fancy synth which you created on your own, because that's pretty hard in the beginning, I know. But just a simple sample can do. I mean, if you're more advanced in the producing process already, then create a sound from a synth, serum probably, or a silent. And then you can use that sound and reuse it again in other songs, and it will shape your style, and people will recognize if you put out more songs. They will say, oh, this actually sounds like a track from enter artist name here. Okay, moving on to tip number 4, get feedback from friends. This is important because once you produce the song already, you want to know how well it would perform if you put it out into the world. And the best thing to do is, for example, go to a party and put on your track. If somebody says, hey, this is a cool track, can you tell me the name of that track? Then you know you've succeeded already. People want to know from who made this track, and they want to know who is that artist playing this track or producing this track. And then the other way around, if people say, oh, come on, put on something else, this is not good, then you know you can improve. But you must not be offended by that in any certain way. Producing is a tough job, and being a producer, being an artist is exceptionally hard, and we all know that. So try to Try to bring your friends in and you can also ask them, play them the track and tell them, how do you like it? Would you say this is probably good for a club or a radio show? And if they say, yeah, to mention, they need to be honest. If you ask friends who don't know anything about music and they will tell you, yeah, it's good, just because they are your friends, then it's probably the wrong start. You need good friends who give you honest feedback, is what I want to say. Coming up, tip number 5. Get familiar with the basics from your production software. Means you don't need a lot of plugins or a ton of EQs, or you don't have to figure out which EQ is the best, even if it's FabFilter against Equality or against Ozone or some isotope stuff. Doesn't matter, you can name them all. Just get familiar with an EQ, for example. Try to figure out what an EQ does, how you can use it, and how it can improve your sound. Probably you want to pick one reverb, and even if it's a stock reverb, it's fine. In the first place, you need to figure out what does a reverb do and how can you use it to improve your sound. So for the basics, I'd say go with a compressor, go with a reverb, go with a limiter or a delay and an equalizer, and you're good to go. If you learn that basics, it improves your track a lot. And that leads me to tip number 6. Don't overuse and overbuy plugins. Because if you can't get familiar with one plugin at all, what's the sense of having 10 different plugins who all does the same thing? Imagine having 10 equalizers and you don't even know which one to use in the first place. Just try to stick to one. You don't need to spend a lot of money for expensive plugins or equalizers or limiters or reverb plugins. Just pick one good one and use it, and then keep using it, because the more often you use it, the better you will get. Moving on to number 7 on the list, finish songs. It's the most important thing when you want to be a producer. You need to finish songs. Repeat after me. You need to finish songs. If you want to work with other artists, for example, you need to send them a whole idea of your vision of your track for them to be interested in. And same for a break. If you just do a break, which is really, really good, and the drop isn't here or isn't good enough, then nobody would be interested in that. So start your idea, make your parts from break, bridge, or build up, or drop, or chorus, whatever it is, what kind of genre it is, and finish it. You need to finish songs to be successful. Nobody wants to hear unfinished tracks. Start finishing songs. Okay, next up, tip number 8. Do not compare yourself to very successful artists. Eventually, you will be depressed. Because once you produce a song and you wanna get some comparison to it, and you take a track from a very, very good artist, let's take Martin Garrix or David Guetta, for example, your track will not sound as good as theirs. Theirs are already mastered, theirs are produced very, very well, which not just includes one producer, but 7 other guys, a songwriter, a texter, a singer, producer, co-producer, more producers, maybe a guitar player. There are so many people working on one track actually from a famous artist just to push it out that you don't even know of. So if you produce a song by yourself and then compare it to a Martin Garrix track, of course it will not be as good as the track from Martin Garrix is, because he's a fucking world star. You need to be humble. You need to stay on the ground, and you need to compare your stuff to other producers who are in the same league as you are. Coming up, tip number 9, and that's for the mixing gurus out there. Reference, reference, reference. You need to listen to other tracks in order to achieve a good mix. I know it's a little bit controversial with the tip I gave before with not comparing to bigger artists, but in this state of the production, I mean actually the mixing. You must reference your mixing with other tracks which are already good, because you kind of want to sound like that. So pick a track which is the same genre as your track is and listen to it. And then pick another track and listen to it. And then listen to yours. And try to manage your volume levels, your balance of the overall mix to match that tracks. For example, if you make a track which has a lot of bass, then you kind of need to know where the bass needs to sit in the mix. And therefore you're going to compare yourself or your mix with another mix. That doesn't mean you got to compare the overall song and the vision of the song, but just the mixing. That's important over here. And here's the 10th and last tip. Do not overestimate or underestimate yourself. Be humble. You gotta know your value, and you gotta know what the product you do actually is worth for you and for the others. That's important. Nobody likes those guys who come in at the party and say, oh, come on, I produced 17 tracks with this artist and this artist and this artist, and they all sell so good. Come on, just stay on the ground. Be who you really are. And on the other hand, don't think you're too bad for production. Put out your songs, get feedback in, and then eventually you will see where your standing point is at. You need to value yourself, and you need to value your work. For example, if you make ghost productions, don't sell for too less. Don't sell for too high. If you're producing for another guy, don't sell too less. And don't sell too high. Take all those minor things which makes you a good producer and put them into a package, and then estimate what value is that for you and what value would that be for other guys who want to buy something off you. So it's kind of important to know where you are in the state of your production journey, if that makes sense. I know the last one is a weird one, but trust me, it's true. So with that being said, that were my 10 essential tips for young producers. And stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.